The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
Hello and welcome to the Neural Right. It is Thursday, January 29th, 2026. I'm Josh Cohen, and across the table from me is a man whom I'm fairly certain just spent 45 minutes explaining the metaphysical significance of his ribeye steak. Well, it's the lion diet, Josh, and it's no joke, man. You see, when you strip away the carbohydrate-induced fog of the modern world and you confront the primordial necessity of the predator-prey relationship through a strictly bovine lens, you start to realize that discipline is the only thing standing between us and the chaos dragon. Okay, right, well, I'll stick to my coffee and the Bill of Rights, thanks. Folks, we have an important show today, a very busy news cycle. Not massive, not insane, but certainly crucial as the administration continues to push against what I call the incompetence industrial complex. It's a busy day indeed, roughly speaking, and it's a heavy follow-up to yesterday where we saw the bloody fallout of the Ilhan Omar vinegar incident and that absolute blasphemy regarding Bill Belichick being snubbed from the Hall of Fame. I still can't believe you're more upset about Belichick than the Federal Reserve's independence, but that's why we're a team. Okay, gang, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the federal government actually has the right to enforce its own borders. A novel concept, I know. But Breitbart is reporting this morning that we're seeing a total collision between federal enforcement and what I can only describe as radical obstruction. It's the delegitimization of the very concept of a boundary, Josh. Precisely. We have reports coming out of the Washington Examiner and Fox News Politics that several sanctuary jurisdictions are now actively, not just passively, but actively deploying local resources to physically interfere with ICE operations. Hypothetically, if I were to obstruct a federal agent, I'd be in a cell before my wife, who is a doctor by the way, could finish her morning rounds. But these city officials seem to think the law is a buffet where they can skip the rule of law salad and go straight to the social justice dessert. Well, that's the thing. You see, when you dismantle the hierarchy of legal authority, you aren't just protesting. You're subverting the logos itself. We talked about this on the 25th, Josh, the dismantling of federal law enforcement as an objective reality. If a border doesn't exist, a nation doesn't exist. And if a nation doesn't exist, where does the individual stand? Right, you're standing in a void of resentment. It's bloody complicated. It's a tragedy, really. These young men and women in uniform being told by their own mayors that they are the villains for simply cleaning the room, for enforcing the perimeter of our shared home. Okay, but let's look at the data, and the Federalist has a great breakdown on this. The obstruction isn't just a physical standoff anymore. It's a data war. These jurisdictions are scrubbing databases. They're refusing to share criminal alien information. So when a guy with 3 deportations and a violent record gets picked up for a minor offense, the feds have no idea who he is until it's too late. Facts don't care about your feelings, and the fact is, sanctuary policies lead to dead citizens. It's the devouring mother archetype, Josh. I'll protect everyone, even the wolf at the door, until the children are all eaten. It's a sickness of the spirit. It's a sickness of the legal code, Walter. We have the PJ Media reporting that the DOJ is preparing a litany of lawsuits against these mayors, but the courts are slow and the chaos is fast. Speaking of things being fast, let's shift gears to the schools. We have a request on this topic from a listener named Sarah, who is a Patreon supporter. Thank you, Sarah, for your support. She's asking about the latest push for educational integrity and parental rights. Oh, I've got some thoughts on this. Well, of course you do. But Sarah's point, and she's right, roughly speaking, is that the Federalist and Breitbart are highlighting this radical attempt by some school boards to treat parents as guests in their children's lives. It's no joke, man. If you undermine the authority of the father and the mother, you're not liberating the child. You're surrendering them to the state-sponsored mob. Okay, but let's look at the data, and the Federalist has a great breakdown on this. The obstruction isn't just a physical standoff anymore. It's a data war. These jurisdictions are scrubbing databases. They're refusing to share criminal alien information. So when a guy with 3 deportations and a violent record gets picked up for a minor offense, the feds have no idea who he is until it's too late. Facts don't care about your feelings, and the fact is, sanctuary policies lead to dead citizens. It's the devouring mother archetype, Josh. I'll protect everyone, even the wolf at the door, until the children are all eaten. It's a sickness of the spirit. It's a sickness of the legal code, Walter. We have the PJ media reporting that the DOJ is preparing a litany of lawsuits against these mayors, but the courts are slow and the chaos is fast.
It's the dismantling of the family unit, which is the smallest viable unit of the hierarchy. You see, Josh, if you can't trust the school to tell you the truth about your own child, then the truth itself has become a casualty of the postmodern neo-Marxist revolution. It makes me want to weep for these kids. They are being used as pawns in a game of ideological chess.
Walter, keep it together, buddy. Let's look at the win here. Fox News Politics is reporting that Florida and several other states are now introducing curriculum transparency bills. This is the logic-based solution. If you want to teach it, put it on a public website. Sunlight is the best disinfectant for a radical cultural divide, which is another one of our topics today.
Sunlight is good, but you have to have eyes that want to see, Josh.
Very poetic. Moving on. Let's look at Minnesota's political reckoning. This follows our discussion yesterday about the Ilhan Omar incident. The Washington Examiner is noting that the political temperature in Minneapolis has reached a boiling point. You have a mayor who is, frankly, in over his head, and a citizenry that is realizing that defund the police was a suicide pact.
I mentioned this back on the 24th. The Minneapolis federal-local standoff, it's a breakdown of the social contract. When the state fails to provide the basic architecture of security, people will look for it elsewhere, and usually in ways that are very, very ugly.
Right. And PJ Media is highlighting that the local GOP is seeing a significant surge in registrations in the suburbs. People are looking at the smoke rising from the city and saying, maybe the guy who wants to build things and protect the economy isn't the monster the media told us that he was.
It's the return to common sense, which actually is a perfect segue into topic 4, the economic restoration and common sense finance.
Okay, folks, let's talk numbers. The Daily Caller is reporting that the affordability agenda we talked about yesterday, specifically the John Deere move, is already triggering a follow the leader effect. We're seeing rumors reported by Fox Business of 3 other major manufacturers looking to move production from overseas back to the Rust Belt.
It's about the dignity of work, Josh. A man who has a job that creates something tangible, a man who can provide for his family by working with his hands, he has a stake in the world. He's not a resentment-filled ghost haunting the internet.
Correct. And Breitbart is reporting that the Common Sense Finance Initiative is looking at, wait for it, deregulation of the community bank sector. Hypothetically, if you make it easier for a small-town bank to lend to a small-town bakery, you get, shocker, economic growth. Who would have thought?
Roughly speaking, the bureaucrats hate it because they can't justify their own existence if things are working. You see? They need the complexity to hide their own incompetence.
Exactly. Before we get back to the analysis, let's deal with a hard reality. Real independence isn't free. This entire network, from this show to our flagship, the Neural Daily, exists because one man, Eric Christensen, decided to build it himself. He didn't ask for a government grant. He invested his own capital and technical expertise to architect a media platform that respects your intelligence. If you value that kind of meritocratic building, back it up. And don't limit yourself just to the politics. Get the full strategic picture by subscribing to the Neural Daily and the rest of the network. Support the builder, and you support the mission.
I like that. Support the builder. It's an archetypal truth. You're either building something or you're tearing it down in a fit of nihilistic rage.
Speaking of nihilistic rage. Topic 5, the radical cultural divide. PJ Media and the New York Post are both covering this absolute chasm between the coastal elites and what they call the great unwashed. There was a gala in New York recently where some theater director literally said that the current administration is an extinction-level event for art.
Oh, it's so pathetic.
It is.
Art is supposed to be a window into the divine, a pursuit of the transcendent. If your art is so fragile that a change in the executive branch kills it, then it wasn't art. Josh, it was propaganda. It was a subsidized vanity project for people who hate their own audience.
Facts don't care about your feelings. And the fact is the cultural divide is being fueled by a media that refuses to even hypothetically acknowledge the other side's humanity. The Federalist had a piece today about media bubbles and how they're actually becoming media bunkers. It's the echo chamber of the damned. You see, when you stop talking to people you disagree with, you don't just protect yourself, you atrophy. Your ability to think clearly just withers away. It's no joke.
Okay, right. Well, that leads us into our main story for today. We're doing a deep dive into urban decline and the search for stability. This is being reported heavily by the New York Post and Breitbart, and it really ties everything we've talked about together. The border, the schools, the culture. It's the manifestation of the shadow, Josh. Okay, here we go. But actually, you're not wrong. The New York Post is reporting that for the third year in a row, the outward migration from cities like New York, Chicago, and San Francisco it's accelerating. We're not just talking about the wealthy moving to Florida for tax breaks. We're talking about the middle class, the tax base saying, I can't let my kids walk to the park anymore. Well, that's the fundamental question. What is a city? If a city isn't at its core a secure environment for the cultivation of the family and the individual, then it's just a concrete jungle where the predators have more rights than the civilized. Right, and Breitbart has this analysis of the retail apocalypse in these cities. It's not just Amazon, folks. It's the fact that when you have restorative justice policies that allows someone to hypothetically, walk into a CVS and walk out with $900 worth of merchandise with zero consequences, the CVS closes. And then you have a food desert.
Exactly.
And then the very people these compassionate policies were supposed to help are the ones who can't buy a loaf of bread. It's a self-reinforcing loop of utter stupidity. It's a tragedy, Josh. You see these once great centers of civilization, the architecture of our ancestors' ambitions, and they're being allowed to rot from the inside out because no one has the moral courage to say, no, this is wrong. Clean your bloody streets. Right, let's assume for the sake of argument that the people running these cities aren't actually trying to destroy them. Let's assume they're just, as you say, incompetent. Even then, the search for stability is leading to a geographic realignment of the entire country. We're seeing red state cities like Austin, though that's a bit of a purple mess, or Nashville or Charlotte booming. Why? Because they still believe in, brace yourself, prosecuting criminals and hypothetically having a police force that isn't treated like a pariah. It's the hierarchy of needs, Josh. You can't have self-actualization and postmodern deconstruction if you're constantly worried about being mugged on your way to the
the organic kale market, right? My wife, the doctor, says the same thing about the public health crisis in these urban centers, the return of diseases we thought were gone, the needle exchanges that have turned sidewalks into minefields. It's a sloppy way to run a society. It's sloppy because it lacks a foundational respect for the individual. If you view people as just groups or demographics, you stop caring about the individual mother trying to push a stroller through a tent city. You've sacrificed the human being on the altar of the ideology. It's honestly heartbreaking. Okay, so let's look at the solution being proposed by some in the new administration. There's talk, reported by Fox News Politics, of federal urban zones, where the federal government would step in to provide security and hypothetically bypass local DAs who refuse to prosecute. What do you think of that, Walter? Legal or a bridge too far? Well, it's a dangerous precedent, but when the house is on fire, you don't argue with the guy holding the hose. If the local authorities have abdicated their responsibility to maintain order, then they've lost their claim to sovereignty. It's bloody complicated. It is. I'm torn. As a constitutionalist, I hate federal overreach. But as a guy who likes his streets not smelling like well, you know what? I see the appeal. Facts don't care about your feelings, and the fact is the current urban model it's failing. It's failing because it's built on a lie, Josh. The lie that you can't have civilization without responsibility. Roughly speaking, if no one is responsible for the sidewalk becomes a trash heap. Truer words it's never were spoken. Okay, game, we've covered the border standoffs, the war for our children's minds, the political shifts in Minnesota, the economic return of manufacturing, and the slow motion collapse of our major cities. It's a lot, but that's the world we're living in. It's a world that requires you to stand up, to straighten your shoulders, to be the person who says enough with the chaos. Because if we don't, who will? It's no joke, man. All right, Walter, let's go get you some salt and water and maybe a second ribeye. Folks, that's all for today. Remember, logic over emotion, facts over feelings. And for heaven's sake, if you're in an urban center, maybe look at a U-Haul quote. Clean your room. And tell your wife she's doing a great job, especially if she's a doctor. We'll see you tomorrow.